Results Realty and Results Land Co. channel. I'm Alan Howard, owner and broker of both companies. We put together a series of videos prior to this. We've had seller's agency, buyer's agency, and transaction brokerage. I wanted to get started on showing you a few of the differences and how this is supposed to work and how some of it is working in practical use every day. So let's say that I'm going to be a seller's agent for Bob. Bob has a quarter of ground in Kingman County and he wants me to list that. Excuse me. So as a seller's agent, I need to do what? I need to be able to go and look at comps. I need to have access to comps. I need to understand the comps. I need to understand soils. I need to understand the market. I just need to understand what's going on with all of that, as an agent in the land market should do. I need to know that in order to properly price that property, create a strategy for Bob of how we're going to get this sale done, whether it's going to be private list or whether I think it's best to take it to auction, and outline an actual strategy of what we're going to do. Also at the same time, I'm going to be advising on what our price point expectations are, how we're going to market it, what our advertising venues are. And again, those advertising venues need to be within the market that we are actively in, the land market. So we need to understand the local area. We need to understand the regional and put together our statewide and our national advertising as well in order to fit this property, which is what we do. So along with that, let's say Bob gives me an intimate piece of knowledge of why he's selling this. He and his wife are not getting along and they're going to get a divorce. So they have not filed. It's not public information. So that is obviously an intimate piece of information that I need to hold close to me, that's just between Bob and myself, because that is a piece of information that a buyer is going to get a hold of and is going to utilize that piece of information to try and beat up the seller. That's just the way it works. So that is a classic example of fiduciary duty, keeping that between the seller and myself, also being proficient in the market of which I serve, which is the land market, understanding pricing, understanding the comps, understanding the soils, so on and so forth. The advertising, it all goes together, being proficient within the market that I serve. Now, with that said, I'm going to change this scenario just a little bit. A lot of our competitors are listing properties as transaction brokers. It's gotten to be a very common practice. It's just plain wrong. I just don't know how you can, as a transaction broker, you cannot give advice. You cannot advocate. You're not supposed to be able to price that property for that person. You can supply information, but you cannot advise because you're not actually representing that person as a transaction broker if you follow the letter of the law. So as a seller, why would you possibly want to engage an agent that's going to come in and say that they're going to list your property as a transaction broker? It just simply doesn't make any sense. And from the agent side of the fence, the reason that we're seeing this happen a lot of times is the agents and their brokerages that they're working for simply don't want the liability, because there is a certain amount of liability that goes along with being a fiduciary or your agent. We take that very seriously. We only operate as seller's agent when we're working for a seller. So again, these are things that I've always wanted to discuss, is how in the world can you possibly be a transaction broker and represent a seller? You can't. It just simply cannot happen. And as I said, the only reason the agent wants to do it is to relieve themselves of any sort of liability on down the road that they feel like they might get from the real estate commission if that particular file gets flagged or whatever. So that is a classic, in a nutshell, why you need to pay attention to how that agent is going to represent you or discuss a deal with you. Are they actually representing you or not? And again, is the agent even proficient within that market arena? I've beat on this over and over and over again. You cannot call you can, but you should not call a residential agent out of the city to come out and help you with a piece of land. It just doesn't work. 99.9% of the time, the agent has no idea about possession. They don't have anything. They have no idea about tenancy. They have no idea about crops. They have no idea about pricing. They don't have any idea about any of it. So with that said, why would you want to engage someone that doesn't understand your farm? And if they don't understand your farm, how in the world are they going to understand what you need to get done and how do they represent you? So that's our first little scenario. I'll move on to another one in our next video. We'll probably have 2 or 3, and then we'll get into talking about 1031 exchanges and some other real estate related news. And in the meantime, happy trails.